Hello, it's Joey, and today we're making a junk journal using old book pages and scraps. I'm starting with the cover, gluing book pages and doing collage. I've also added texture with a little bit of sewing, but that's completely optional and you can just use glue. Today I'll share lots of detail so that you can do all of this too, and then I'll make the signature and finish a lovely journal. Are you here because you love paper? If you are, hit the subscribe button below. I have lots more ideas to share with you. Now let's make this journal cover. The key supplies that I'm using today are old book pages and lots of scrap papers. And I've pulled a load out from my various supplies, from the little wallets that I have around my craft room. And I put them in one plastic wallet so that I can pull on them really easily when we come to do the collage. What I'm going to do is take a large book page and cover it with different papers, but I'm going to do it in a way that makes it really easy. I've found a method that helps me put something together that I quite like, with a focal point, with stamping and with just this little bit of sewing, and it uses up lots and lots of those pages. So it also helps me satisfy the goal of getting rid of some of the extra book pages and pieces of paper that I have floating around my craft room. And if you want to create something really beautiful and get rid of some of your papers, then maybe this is the project for you. So I'm starting with a large, let me show you the back. I'm starting with a large book page. This is just an old page from, it happens to be a lever arch file with some holes in it, and that doesn't matter, but an old book page to begin with is what you need. So let me just find one in this collection. And what I'm going to do is then use some of these papers with a certain easy method, collage, cut, sew, stamp, glue, is what we're going to do to cover it, and then add a little focal point. So the page that I'm starting with looks like this. In fact, let me show you where that came from. I'll show you the lever arch file. I found this in a car boot sale. It's the sort of thing, sorry about that glare. I found it in a car boot sale, and it's one of those items where you find it and you think, I must do something with it, it's gorgeous. But what do I do? So it sits there, and it sits there, and you think, I need to do something with it, I can't throw it away. So I've come up with this as a basis for a cover, and one of the reasons is either this or an old book page has got some robustness, but hey ho, it's one of those glossy pages that perhaps is more difficult to use in some of our crafting. So it's old, it's all out of date, and it is relatively large. Let me tell you how big it is. So the page that I'm starting with will obviously be folded over because it's going to be a cover, and I'm starting with this piece being about 28.5 centimetres in width, so just over 11 inches, and that is 23 centimetres in height. So when we fold this over to make the cover, and to tell you that in inches, that will be about 9 inches. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to pull pages out. Here's an example of one I had. This is not yet sewn, but it's so easy once you get some kind of method going. You could make several of these. I'm also thinking about creating one with a festive theme, so maybe a Christmassy theme. And all I would need to do is maybe pull on some reds and greens or some purples and golds and decorate it in a slightly different way. So this could also be adapted for a festive project, and if you're interested, maybe I should have a go at that. Let's pull out some pages from here that I think might work to stick on as collage. And the method I have is I start with something relatively large as a piece in one particular place of the cover, and then I build out from there, and I glue the pieces down in a specific way, and I'll talk you through that. And what this allows me to do is not get stuck thinking, ooh, will that work there, or getting to a point where I'm really not happy with it. It seems to work each time to give me a result that I like, and that's really one of the reasons I wanted to share it with you today. So let me pull out the relevant pieces and maybe describe what might work, what goes with what the features are of each of those pieces, and what I'm looking for when I choose variety to get collage that works. So all of this pack of papers is relevant for sticking and gluing on a cover. And with everything, I would say, use what you have. You can see I've pulled out a doily, maybe that would work. I've got a piece of matte paper. What else have we got? I've got music paper, that's a possibility. I've got scrapbook paper, really, really nice. I've got this is a digi with a pretty butterfly, and I'm going to use that as a focal point at the end. So I will use something like that to give the cover just that punch, that place to look, and also with a butterfly we get that beautiful 3D effect. I love the idea of using children's books, and you get beautiful pictures, so I might tear a piece of that. I can even use basic lined paper. One of the books I want to start with, possibly the anchor piece that I add to this, is a children's book, and the reason I really like this is the large font. So that really works for me as a very strong starting point. It's also matte. So I'm going to cover up some of this gloss. Probably most of the pieces on here will be matte paper because I'm using old book pages. I have a choice, obviously, of using pictures, but I like to start with text on the page. And I don't want all of this sheet, so I think I'll just tear that down, and I'm tearing, not cutting, so that's one choice I've made. And I need some glue. So the glue that I'm using, if I can talk you through a little trick, I bought these high-tack glues, and they are great. They're not the cheapest, and in today's world where money matters, what I have done is preserve one with the original contents, and this is it. I'm also trialling a different glue, which is the basic hobbycraft glue that I can buy at about half the price in my local craft store, and this doesn't have a great dispenser. So all I've done is when I emptied one of these, I filled it with this, and I'm testing to see how this glue compares with this for strong purposes, being flexible but not making the paper warp. So I may report back on that. If you're interested, let me know. Back to the paper, I'm starting with my large font, and I already have a choice about whether to have the raggedy edge at the edge or whether to have it in the middle of the page when it's stuck on. And let me also just talk about which way up this goes. If I am not careful, I'm going to end up with the inside being upside down, and we may not want to cover the inside of our journal. It might be that we want to still see some of the beautiful inside, like I do when I use an atlas or a road map in some way. So pretty pages inside, but why not see the inside of the cover? So I am going to turn it so that the inside is the right way up, which means I'm going to be decorating with this side upside down, and just being aware that if you're using a page from a document holder that is ring bound, it might be that you need to be careful which way up this goes. I'm starting with my sticking, and I've already swapped out the piece of paper because I made a mistake, and I thought I would just explain that. What I want to do when I'm adding all of these pieces of collage paper is put the glue in the middle and avoid the outsides. So how silly of me to get that wrong on the first one, but I just thought I would share that with you today. So what I'm doing is adding that to the bottom left. The bottom left of this page will obviously be the back of the cover, and it will be the back sides. Let me show you. So we're decorating here, and when we fold it, we're going to have a nice large cover for a journal with an inside, and it will be on the back here. So I'm starting with that, and I've only put glue in around the central area, so all of these sides are still sticking up, and I can fit pieces of paper underneath. So now what I do is I just pick whatever I like, and I start decorating around the page. And again, I could like extra text. This side seems to be just a little bit cuter. Belgium, our friends over in Belgium. Maybe that could go on the side here. So I'm going to, I may accept that some of this will be covered up, put glue in the middle only, and I'll stick that down. And I will butt it up too, just even though there isn't glue absolutely under the corner, I will align it with a corner. And I can see a bit of a gap at the top, and that's okay. So I've got something going on the right hand side. And this is giving me text running this way. This has got text running this way. So another thing I'll think about is having old book pages that I glue to this with text running horizontally, because I've got two verticals going on. So let's pick another page. Let's pick something else. A square page. I've been using these for making pockets in the past, and I can see why. Really nice for folding. We've got some aged colour about this. I'm just going to take a bit of that, and maybe I don't even want a straight edge at the top. And what I'm going to do is, we know what to do, glue in the middle, not at the edges, and I'm going to start by tucking that under there. I will try to get it horizontal, so I'm not at this stage so interested in having text running at angles. I'm going for vertical or horizontal, but I do want both. And that can go on there, and I think what I'm going to do at this stage is tuck that under, so it feels very much like a background piece. Let's just keep going. Anything we come across, I'm really going for larger pieces at the moment. Even if I've got larger pieces, I've got so much lovely stuff to choose from. Even if I've got whole pages, I might rip them. So I think I will have, I like the torn edge. I think I might have that at the top. And I'm starting, use your brain. Put my glue in the middle. There's an automatic pilot that goes on to put glue at the edge of pieces. So I'm just going to say, I'm sure to make mistakes as I go through it, but I'm going to try to concentrate while I'm talking to you. So that's down. I like the stamp on the corner. Let's keep going. What else have we got? Bit of an atlas. I like that. Two raggedy sides. I think that would be great to cover up some of the straightness of this line. So I think I might just position that over the top. What I'm starting to do is go for coverage of edges. And that's why collage looks so beautiful, because we put things, we position pieces of paper and images over the top of each other and get that beautiful layering effect. So again, I've got capacity to put something under if I want to. It's easy, isn't it? It's just easy. Easy and fun. Perfect. Right, piece of music paper. Always good for our crafting and collage. And it's nice and thick actually. So I want to exploit the dainty nature of the notes on the page. And also gradually as I build up, what I want to do is have smaller pieces. So that's another little tip. I start with a large piece to get going, and then I accommodate around it and build up and build on. So let's see what we can do. Maybe, I'm not going to have it upside down. Maybe I can have a little bit up here, and then the music can just peep through. So I'm going to have a piece there underneath one of my corner pieces, but on top of another one, and that's always interesting if you can get something to go under and over, under and over. Under and over is really interesting for the eye. Under here over that, under this one and over this one. So I seem to have some green, and I'm letting the themes build up. I'm letting the colours just tell me what they want to be, and I seem to have, obviously from old book pages, some aged, more aged, lovely vanilla colours, a definite vintage with a beautiful script, green and green. I found this in my little collection, so I think what I will do is maybe have a corner piece up here. That would be nice. So remembering to put glue just in the middle. Corner piece, enough to overlap this one, but we can start to still see the gloss underneath, the glossy page underneath, so I will be adding more at the top. Try and keep that straight. Do you see it's building up? Building up. What have we got? There's a nice butterfly that might work for later. I'll have to cut that out. I'm just looking for variety. Now then, old square paper with a bit of text on the back, which really doesn't matter. So that might be nice. Bit of variety up here. And I like the green. I don't want to cover up too much of my map, but let's just tuck a bit under there. Nothing too interesting on the back there. Glue in the middle, and remember, because we kept our pieces of paper only glued in the centre, I have the ability to just tuck under. There we go. So we've got some squared paper. I've got the square tucking underneath the atlas, but on top of the text. So I'm eating into some of this larger piece that we put on to begin with, and that's perfectly fine because it was a larger piece. Piece from a book that you might recognise. The picture's obviously been used. I really like the text. I like that style of font. Do you choose pieces of paper and decorate collage by looking at the text? Does that matter, or do you just look at the paper and the colour? I don't know, I'd be interested to see what your thought process is. I like that. I like that a lot, and I do like the yellow that starts to show in here as well. So I think what I'll do is maybe get a piece down at the bottom. Maybe that side, yeah. So I think I have a bit under here, and I'm okay with the raggedy edge again. I can, should I have it with the brown? No, I don't like that brown. I'm going to have the brown at the back. Just hide that. I'm going to have this under here. And it starts to feel really, really good that we're using up our old book pages and we're using up bits of paper, but it's not too difficult to process. I don't need to concentrate too much, and I need a bit of that at the moment. I don't know about you, I want some easy things. An old encyclopedia, awesome. I think that has got life on this page. Spiny skinned animals. I think I'll have a bit of the text. And that, I think that could be, yeah, I think that could be under one and over another. And we can always trim off any edge that's excess. So that goes on there. So we've covered up quite a lot of the page already. I feel like I need a bit of feature and a bit more controversy going on. Something shouting at me in some way. So what can we choose from here that is a little bit specific? It's got a little bit of drama in it. Piece here with some nice adverts. I don't want too much to counteract what I want to have as a focal point, but I do want some action, and I'm definitely going to do it by tearing, because that seems to be what collage is all about. And maybe that could go, yeah, that helps. Text, bit of balance. It's not too lonely on its own in the corner. I think I want text not to be just in one place, a bit down here. We have variety. I'm okay even though it's on white paper, that's okay too. Yeah, I like that. And I'm not too worried about the fact that some of these pieces are going to sit on the spine either, because we're going to, at the end, glue everything down at the edges, so that will be absolutely okay. There's nothing special in my stack of papers here either, so there's nothing that we don't have access to or might not have in our collection, in our own supplies, and we're all going to have something different. We're all going to have things that are a function of whatever we've collected over the years, and that's perfectly fine. Why don't we have a teeny tiny amount just in the middle here? And one of the things I start to do as the page builds up and gets more busy and more full is my pieces get smaller. So I may have the overall structure, but I still want to add a little bit of detail. So the pieces that I tear off anything I have will be just a little bit smaller. What happens if we put that under there, under and over, underneath there? Can I go under and over? Yes, I can. Right. Oops. So underneath the map and over the top of this. Really like that. Just checking that I've got a straight line or I've got something relatively horizontal by looking at the text above. I like that a lot. So just some little bit of vintage paper there. I've got a bit up here that I want to fill. So you start to do a bit like you would do if you were decorating. You start to go for fillers. So we can add a few fillers and add a bit of detail. Ooh. I don't want too much text. I do like the pale. I think I'm going to have something a bit different. Let's just have another rummage in our pack of papers. I always like dictionary pages. And this is from my lovely Spanish dictionary, and I apologise because I don't know what the words mean. But let's just add a little bit of something at the top there. And I suppose what I've done is gather pieces that are not out of a certain palette. So I haven't concentrated too much, but they're all toning, perhaps naturally because I'm going for using up old book pages. They're toning because they are those beautiful vanilla mahogany yellowing aged colours. Actually, I quite like that. If I bring that over, I just need something here because it looks, I don't like that gap between two. So I'm going to put something on there. So for that, I might have something a bit cheeky. And another thing I think about is when I'm putting pieces on, it's natural for me to feel that I want pieces to go that way. So I'm specifically going to think about adding a piece that's more vertical. So thinking about contrast. And also I'm okay with the fact that this is a more pinky green rather than the natural green that I have in that. So being brave. I really like that because it's covering up a number of the junctions. So that I think will go there. Have we covered everything up? Yes, we have. I feel like this is too open. There's something too large. I just want to break that up. What can we add down there? Do we have any pictures? What I have got, and I'm very sparing with it, is genuine vintage ledger paper. And do we like this? I'm going to be frugally excessive, if there is such a phrase. And I'm going to have something on here which is using a piece where shall we have that to break up some of this expanse? So even though it will be on the back, I'm going to have a piece there. Again, I'm always putting the glue in the middle, and I'm using the little piece that's got more of the columns because I think that's what ledger paper is about. And that can sit there, and it breaks up just some of that larger piece, so that's really good. Just a little bit of something down here. Maybe I can go for just an echo of the colourful spotty piece up here. So another trick is to repeat use in specific ways some of the pattern paper, particularly when it's a strong pattern like the dots. Doing it sparingly, but just adding a cheeky piece elsewhere on the cover. So now I've got an old book page, piece of paper covered with collage in a relatively coordinated family of colours, but we didn't think too hard about it. They're sticking up because we haven't glued the edges. So what I'm going to do at this stage is do some sewing in a particular way that adds both structure to the page and decoration. If you don't have a sewing machine, it's perfectly fine to go round and now tidy up by sticking down the edges. But let me show you what I do and how I add some texture, how I add some of this in a very limited way that helps us with our focal point and our decoration on the front in particular, but doesn't require too much work, and it's not about sewing every seam. Let's make things easy. So I've set up my sewing machine, and what I'm going to do is add a zigzag stitch and just a straight running stitch in specific places on the page. I'm also going to add a border in just straight running stitch all the way around. So I'm setting my machine up on the zigzag stitch to begin with because I know I want to get that into the collage, and then when I have to, I might switch to running stitch on particular occasions and in specific places. After that, we'll add some stamping to add texture, and that will give us the cover. We'll just add a focal point. So let me explain how I choose where to sew and when I add zigzag and when I switch to running, just to make life really easy. I have seen masterboards be done a bit like this, with sewing really beautifully up and down, very straight lines and all over the page, but it was just too much for me. So I wanted to design something that was quicker, easier, for me a bit more fun, and really just something that we could share and play at together. I start by looking for what I'd call an access point into the middle of the cover. So this would be an access point because it's where two pieces meet, and it would naturally be a place where we might want to sew. And I know that when I sew into it, I've got some choices about going left and right, and that will give us the ability to add pattern to the page. I don't know exactly where I'm going to sew when I start. I just know that I want to choose a good access point to begin with, and everything will work from there. Let's just trust the process and go with the flow. So if I turn this upside down and get going, I'll make sure it's on a zigzag, which it is. It's on a small zigzag, and I will begin just at the bottom here. And then all I'm going to do is bring my sewing somewhere up here and then think about turning round a corner. So I've reached a point where I'm going over another piece. I'm going to take the opportunity to lift the foot, turn around and just go left. And I'm just looking for places where I can turn again so that I can create interest in that zigzag stitch. And at this point, if I carry on, I know that I'm going to roughly meet another piece up here, so I think And as I approach the edge, I'm going to take the opportunity to go round the outside. So I'll just bring the foot up, and around the outside I'm going to use a running stitch. foot up, pull it out and cut. And this is the bare bones of the sewing that we're doing, but I just want to add a bit more. I want some extra texture around here, so I'm going to cut in and do something straight across in some way. Let's have a go at that. I'm adding some vertical running stitch for variety. And as I get to a junction, I'm just going to turn a corner. And I'm choosing to not stop and go down south, I'm just going to keep going. I've reached a bit of a line in the pattern of that old book page, so I'm just going to use that to tell me to go up north, and I might do that as a zigzag. And for the purposes of this cover, I think that's enough. I have got some dangly pieces. I will just trim those off, but I don't think it needs to be completely down to the end of the thread. I think it's actually really nice to see a little bit of the thread end. Tidy up some of those. And now what we have is something that we can add a bit of stamping to and a bit of a focal point. And finally at the end I will go round again and just put some glue under the edges and tidy that up too. So let's see how this is going to work as a cover. I'm already feeling the thickness of it, and I think Tina, Shabby Dabby Doodah, if you're watching this, this is something for you to do too. It feels it's very much like a Shabby Dabby Doodah kind of project masterboard. So let's do some stamping next to add some texture, and that will really help, I think. I have a text stamp, and I have a couple of postage style stamps, a bit like the one that's in this, and a couple of ink pads to choose from. I think I'll go for the ginger earth tones, it's a little bit stronger. So what I will do, and you'll see the difference when this comes out, is ink it up and just add it in some places. Again, I tend to look where the junctions of the collage pieces are and not just go over one piece in its entirety. I also don't want it everywhere because that would then not have contrast, which is what I am keen to see. So maybe one more up here, and for that I'm going to go that way. So I've got some texture, some detail. It's quite a detailed script in that stamp, and in fact I'll stick with the ginger ink pad, and I'm going to go for junctions and even off the page, junction, down here, that's enough. A little bit of wiggly line, the postage mark. Okay. And then I'm going to add something of a focal point here and then glue the extra bits down. I found this piece of paper in my collection of pages that I'd pulled out, and although we thought we might use this one, and I really like the colours, so colour is a great prompt for choosing what focal point you want, and it's really large. I'm also really interested in marrying up some of this beautiful teal in this butterfly with the teal that's in this colour. So in the final focal point that I want to add, I am going to think about coordination of colour, perhaps a bit more than we did when we were having fun covering the page. So I think what I'll do is just cut this out. I think this is a page from a collaboration between Tracie Fox and Andrea Allen, so that is Artie Mays. And if you're interested in beautiful, artistic crafting using paper but also using paint, fantastic collage, have a visit over to Artie Mays' channel. I'll just cut this out and then we'll stick it on. So I have my little focal points ready to add. Maybe it would be easier if I tuck down any of these extra little pieces now. So I'll just go round and add a few dots of glue to the pieces that are still sticking up. And remember, if you don't have a sewing machine, and I only got one relatively recently, we don't want to feel excluded from some of these crafts. So feel free to do a bit of faux stitching on your cover, and also you could glue other things onto it. So if you have sequins, if you have any form of decoration, you could add extra texture in that way. And you can also add pictures from magazines as the focal point. So naughty little bit there, stick that down. I think that's pretty well stuck now, and it's quite thick, so we've made it a more robust cover. So let's just add, I'll have a focal point. I like having the scissors up, and I don't want that to cover up everything. Is that the right way? This is the heaviest piece of design in this piece here, so it's bold where those scissors are. I want the butterfly to overlap. I think about there. I'm not going to overthink it. I think all of these pieces work. So I'm just going to have a piece there as a mat for the butterfly, and I've just cut around it, and I like to just leave a bit of a border. It's easier than completely accurate fussy cutting, a lot quicker, and for me a lot more fun. If you have the patience to go completely to the edge, that will be perfectly fine too. And I'm going to stick it where it overlaps some of the junctions of those pieces of paper. And here we have a new journal cover ready to make a junk journal. I'll make the signature next week, and we'll add that so that we've got something to play in. And in the meantime, whilst you're having a go at your own collage cover, do have a look at my video, how to make a junk journal for someone special. If you're interested in putting together a junk journal and you feel like you want to make one either as a gift to yourself or to a friend, I think you might like that video too. So come back and see me soon, and have fun with your crafting.